That's the assumption, actually. But there must have been a plan.
Why don't we welcome our guest, Eric?
He's in the studio now. Good morning, Akelo Misori.
Good morning.
He's the
Good
Secretary
morning.
General of the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. Karibu sana, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Sasa hii KUPPET, does it mean, according to the name...
Nothing like jumping right in.
Yes, straight up, right?
Yes.
Does it mean that you only represent secondary school teachers?
We represent teachers in post-primary institutions,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily secondary school teachers. They are teachers in technical schools, teachers in teachers training colleges, and secondary schools, yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Karibu sana, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Of course, you can watch this interview as it happens on Spice FM KE Facebook, Spice FM KE on Twitter. We are also live streaming on Spice FM KE YouTube and our website www.spicefm.co.ke. Akelo, you have in the recent past been talking about this 100% transition of the order by the government. This is the second year that it's being rolled out. 100% transition from primary to secondary schools. What are your views on it so far?
First, let me just say that it is a landmark stage in Kenya's education development. That for the first time, we have got everybody attending secondary education. That is a plus. But of course, there are challenges which are bedeviled this kind of arrangement, because we did not focus on key areas. That did we check that the infrastructure is there sufficient to support the program? Do we have the teacher numbers to support the program? Because if you are encouraging everybody to go to secondary schools, you are not just having a transition where people are leaving one stage to another without compromising certain very significant aspect of education, that is quality.
So you
So
say
that's the only challenge which has made it clumsy.
So there was no plan in place per se? Because if we're looking at infrastructure, that's major when it comes to education. We're looking at teachers in terms of numbers. That's also critical when it comes to education. Are these not things that would have been taken into consideration before the pronouncement was made that there will be 100% transition?
Global trends have always come up with agitation to have access to education and basic education for this matter. But one thing is now, why do you have education? Education must also feed into the economy of the country, the social aspect of the country and so on. So when you want everybody to go to school and you don't prepare adequately for that, then it means that preparation to have quality was not part of the political mindset in coming up with free education. Yes. And 100% transition.
Are you saying that the unions were not involved, for example, or had a conversation with the government, with the ministry? This is the second year. Before it was rolled out that let's have 100% transition from primary to secondary, were the teachers' unions never involved in these preparations and conversations?
The key important factor in this rollout could have been the government, the parliament approving this. And once the parliament approved, we could only come in to ask very significant questions. That do you have preparedness to roll out 100% transition? Like it obtains currently, you'll realize that the reason for which we are saying teacher numbers, infrastructure, you find some schools having classrooms which appear like political rallies or baraza. So that's the challenge. That is when the teachers now, like the unions now, came in to ask that, according to the acceptable standards, we should have at least a teacher ratio of maybe 1 to 40. If it is the true bad. Otherwise, 1 to 25, between 1 to 25 and 135 would be the standard norm of having a school or a class where a teacher has control, that the learners have got direct contact with their teacher, and the facilitation of learning can be guaranteed. Are you getting this? But currently, like for example, I have just come from Homa Bay, and I passed through Kisii yesterday. And Kisii school, which was built to accommodate just about 600. The number of Form 1s are more than what the school was destined to have. Because Form 1s currently, they have been asked to admit 630 Form 1s. That means that they are going to roll out 9 streams whose sizes is about 70 per class. And that is unbearable. Because most of those classes were built to accommodate up to 40. But now they are accommodating 70. And now the teacher does not even have a place to work. So how can this teacher now attend to individual needs of the learners in that class? That is the secondary school.
Yeah.
I also attended a meeting on Tuesday of head teachers in Rachwanya North for their new year. And then you realize that even disbursement to schools is still constrained. They have not received their 50% of what is supposed to be disbursed in free primary education. And when you look at that allocation also, that disbursement is just awkward. Because, for example, each student in primary school is allocated 1,400. For a whole year, that one is a mockery of all sorts.
What is this 1,400 supposed to do?
That is to cover all manner of tuition, co-curricular activities, and so on. And in fact, co-curricular activity, it is allocated 39 shillings per pupil per year. And then the ministry also takes back 30 shillings, only leaves the school with 9 bob.
Takes back 30 shillings.
How? To manage the stages of all co-curricular activities. We have got sub-county events, you have the extra-county events and extra events.
Okay, so it seems to me that the focus now has been taken away from the student, which should be the core focus now when it comes to this education. But now you've said several times that you asked that you asked questions. The union asks questions. Now, of course, these questions are being directed to someone. I'm hoping they would be the Ministry of Education. What answers have you been given? If we're looking at this 39 shillings per child per year, we're looking at 1,400 shillings per student per year. We're looking at capacity, critical things. I'm asking again, when you ask questions to the Ministry of Education, as in how are we supposed to do this, what answers do you get?
From where we sit, our focus is not supposed to be student welfare per se.
Yes.
The focus of the teacher is basically, of the union is basically to look at the welfare of the teacher. But of course we are teachers, because this our primary stakeholder in our environment
Of
is
course.
the learner.
Yes.
And we are also the same citizens, and we are also
Your parents.
Parents and so on. So because of our knowledge of what happens at where we work, we ask very critical questions, but we lack the support from other components of government.
So they're not answering you?
They are not answering us. What you can see is maybe a revision that currently now we have improved. Like, for example, the secondary schools were getting about 13,000 shillings for every student, but they improved it to 22,000 shillings. So you would only see that because they say they have rationalized this, having consulted the schools and their needs. But when you look at the whole cost of education, when you attach a specific amount, and then you say now this one is sufficient enough, it is an understatement of sorts. Because one thing is, we know, and you people know in Kenya, that the cost of secondary education it cannot be transacted with 22,000 shillings. Because schools charge as much as 110,000. Who bridges the gap of this 80,000?
The parent, of course.
The parent, of course. And therefore, when the current the cabinet secretary announces that no Kenyan's pupils should be sent away from school, who is going to bridge this? Are you getting that point? So those are questions. But so we
Those
consider
are the questions we want to
as teachers and as teachers unions, we now say that we are numbers in the bus. And therefore, if we want, because the owner of the bus want us to be there, let us just start collecting the money from passengers. Yes.
Wow.
Hey, Chief Manamba is in the studio this morning. Akelo Misori is the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. We are talking about the education sector, especially now that we have 100% transition from primary to secondary. That's the conversation we're having. Let's allow him to have a sip of water, take a short break. At 18 minutes past 7, the conversation continues. Good morning. Akelo Misori, the Secretary General of KUPPET, is in the studio. We're discussing education. So you're saying, yes, the owner of the bus has decided this is the direction we're taking. And you have designated yourselves the position of Manamba and said, well, if this is where the bus is going, let's just collect the money. But there's a critical issue here that you've raised. The government is sending a certain amount of money, that 22,000 shillings you said, per student. This is in secondary school.
Yes.
Why is it that teachers find it necessary to demand as high as 100,000 shillings in school fees?
Let me just tell you that education is not a very easy and a very cheap venture. And all the things which go with running of a school are things which are not cheap. I want to just pick one component. That currently what is established before the 100% transition, it was the teacher gap, which according to the current running data is 98,000 in the teacher gap. Who bridges this gap when you have already now brought in 100% transition from primary to secondary school? You find a school like, for example, I just mentioned a school which was designed like a Kisumu school. It is supposed to have at least 100 teachers posted to teach in that school with the 2,300 students which they have currently. And now the establishment which has been occasioned by the Teacher Service Commission is only 55 teachers. So who will now bring in the gap to bring in 45 teachers more? This is where the extra charges will now go. Another thing is some schools are boarding. 22,000 shillings cannot run a boarding school. So you realize that what the minister fails to tell us, that the boarding section is supposed to run with this kind of standards. Every school, like some schools, like if you look at a school like Kenya High in Nairobi, that school you cannot give the learners uji, for example, as their breakfast. You must just give them the standard of what their parents give them at home. So these are the things which make running of those schools.
So the parent must pay for this.
Must pay for that. And that is the reality on the ground. Let me just tell you that before this ministry came up, or before the policy of giving disbursement, we call it affordable secondary school disbursement, the schools were charging as much as 150,000. So the ministry stamped it fit, then they want to ease the burden. But even in the process of easing the burden, they have not sorted the whole issue. Because I want my child to get this at school. Why are you denying? And some parents insist that why are you curtailing our support to schools? So these are the challenges. So you as a head teacher, head teachers and teachers have been accused that they are charging. It is not the teachers who charge. We can as well go to school, teach, and so on. But this is a human issue, because the social issue, economic issue, and so on. Yes. Yeah.
Akelo, you have your contemporary in the studio this morning. Siti Muga has been a teacher. You're still registered as a teacher, aren't you, Siti?
I don't think so.
You registered at some
from the
point.
Teacher Service Commission
A long time ago.
Did you return your teaching certificate registration?
You
I
can
never
be
did.
recalled.
Once a teacher is always a teacher.
You should be paying Akelo Misori for university.
In fact, I'm giving him the membership form.
right now.
Is there a SACCO attached to the union?
Yes.
Okay, and they give loans.
Serious loans.
Then I am taking the form today. Ndugu Karibu,
Thank you.
would you say there is free primary education in Kenya?
There's nothing free. There's nothing free primary education in Kenya, because you realize that as the government is saying free, that is the political connotation of what they say. Somebody must pay for it. The Kenyan taxpayer is paying for that education. But it is not free, because besides what the government pays in terms of disbursement, they call it free primary education disbursement, the parents still, like, in fact, I just mentioned that on Tuesday I had a meeting with I hacked into a meeting of the teachers of Rachwanya North in Homa Bay. And I heard the sub-county director announce that, you will have to support. And the support we want from you, you must collect at least 30 shillings from every pupil. what is it for? That one, even if it is two bob, don't you realize that one, there's nothing free.
It's no
there.
longer free.
Yeah, it is no longer free.
There's still money going.
But do you also think that the education in this country can actually be managed and can it actually be made feasible? Because what we see on a daily basis is confusion.
I believe that if we prioritize education, if we give all our time to say this is what we want in education, if we design our philosophy well, that education in Kenya is supposed to give us the following. It's supposed to control the politics, control the social, the economy of our country. Then we will invest all our policy strategies to support education. So it is very feasible because it has been done. In India has got free education. Most of the Western nations have a free education. As much as those who want to have private education can still pay for private institutions, but education can be made free. I was in Germany the other time, and I realized Germany, it is free. But
Genuinely free.
It is genuinely free. You don't, as a parent, you don't control. I was in Switzerland in June last year, and even early childhood, there's somebody comes to tell you that this child who was born on this particular date is supposed to go to ECD. Can you tell us? Can you tell us among these schools? Because a child should not pass through more than two streets going to school. Can you tell us which among these will be your child is supposed to go? That's what you say. And then they follow you up. Currently, they are telling us we must mop out those, like the minister said, we are going to use the Ministry of Interior to mop out those children who have not gone to school or not going to school. And no school should send away
Children, pupils.
But a head teacher recounted how a boy who was admitted at Mbeta High School could not go because of fees. And that is something is in Kenya. Don't you think we have got an MCA there? We have got a ward administrator. We have got a member of parliament. Why couldn't they petition the member of parliament that this child is supposed to go to Mbeta? The minister said we must not take them. So these are things which are just their statements. And it is high time that somebody in the name of a cabinet secretary, principal secretary, must now come out openly and say these are the doables that the ministry has said we are doing. But this one should be embedded in policy framework. But we need Parliament to take time to discuss the element of education and say this is what we want.
You have a teacher, a union leader in Parliament, right? And this is you have many teachers in Parliament who've gone there. And why is it that they're not discussing and raising these issues?
That's how we miss it, because we think when it comes to education, those people did not go to Parliament as teachers. They were elected by everybody.
Yes.
And everybody should tell them that this is what we want to do. According to us, we have told them this is what you must tell us. In fact, my chairman is the MP for Emuhaya. We don't just have one teacher. We are so many. There are more than 5. In fact, then I've told him that you must now prepare a bill to define what education is, to give a template of the nature of schools, even the nature of categorization we have. I think it is discriminatory.
So why haven't they done that?
I think they may be working on it, but it also depends on the wider globe, what we call that Parliament. Will they give them sufficient time to discuss it? Yeah.
Well, you people are very good at agitating. When we see you going out in the streets and coming together and singing solidarity and holding hands, you are very, very strong. Now, when you tell me the chairman of KUPPET is in Parliament, the Secretary General of NAT is in Parliament, we have other teachers, senior teachers, retired teachers, or currently serving teachers who are in that Parliament, but we are not hearing the voice of education from that Parliament. What's the missing link here?
I think you are now also accusing the victims. Let me just talk about that. That Parliament has got a mandate. Parliament has got parties, and parties also have got
agenda.
The agenda in education, the agenda in economy, the agenda in social welfare and health. So if you narrow it down to members who have come from teaching to spearhead education, then we miss it. What is the NASA agenda in terms of education? What of Jubilee in terms of? In fact, this is where they have a common denominator, that education is servicing both. Education is servicing a standard group. What is standard group doing to contribute to the education debate? It is good today you have thought it wise to call somebody who is serious like me to discuss this matter. but beyond this, what else are you doing on a weekly basis or a monthly basis?
So I hear you saying then that enough importance is not being placed on now.
It is not.
It is not.
It is not.
In terms of education, and if we're looking at now,
But is that really true?
This is what I'm asking. I'm hearing you say that.
If you
but
look
is it
at
not
our
true?
budget,
The education actually has a lion's share of the budget, the national budget. Now, in terms of importance, I know a lot of times we put importance then on money.
TSC
But
is among the
in
biggest
terms of the budget,
employers.
In the country, right?
It is good to say that TSC is the one, but that money is going to pay salaries.
Yes.
The salary which is attached to numbers. And you know those numbers are also not well paid. But the reason for which I'm talking about this, as nobody has placed some significance on this, look at the security situation which also facilitate education. Who is thinking about education in the northern frontiers of this country? You realize the other time we were talking about give teachers guns. I use that point. Because it appears that when you go there to teach, if you come from this side of the country, you are target. You are the target. You are seen as a stranger, and yet you are going to transact something very serious. If we had a nation which has priority on education, then you say that the children of this place have a right to education, and they must be taught well, and therefore we must improve the security. And this is our strategy of how to improve this security.
Yep.
Leave alone the element of infrastructure. I want to say this. It is good to say in paper that education has got a lion's share. Are you aware in this country, there are certain regions where classrooms are still conducted under tree?
Yes.
Yet we have got CDF. Who follows that before you give bursaries, and even that bursary, how much do you give as a bursary? You find that a student whose fee is 74,000 is being given a bursary of 3,000 shillings. How is that a mockery, or just like you are saying figures?
Ticking the box.
Yeah.
Akelo Misori, we'll continue the conversation shortly. Let's first take a look at what's happening on the roads at 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. Akelo Misori is the Secretary General of KUPPET. That's the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. We are talking the education sector. When you come out of this break, he's already taken us there, so we'll go there. The security situation in northeastern parts of the country and the plight of teachers who are serving there. Good morning. Kenya's biggest conversation continues with Akelo Misori, the Secretary General of KUPPET. And let's now talk about the plight of teachers. So we've seen some teachers demonstrating and demanding to be transferred due to insecurity in the northeastern parts of the country. Of course, we've seen Al-Shabaab attacks that have targeted people, and some of those people who have been killed are teachers. What is it that the union is doing to address the plight of those and to help those teachers actually get reprieve?
First, let me just say that the employer is a responsible employer, and the employer did its best to post teachers in northern Kenya. Now, the security must be taken seriously by other arms of government. We have got the Ministry of Interior and so on. We have seen that the terror attacks target teachers not necessarily during the day when they are in school, but they attack them at night. And what we have done is that because teachers are traumatized in such regions, we have asked the Teacher Service Commission remove the teachers and let us have a national conversation on how we can secure that region for the purposes of transacting the business of education. I wanted to give an example that we have the Gaza Strip in that region where the Israelis, the Palestinians live together. Education takes place in such regions because everybody has been brought up to speed on matters of security. You know what to do when something happens in a bus. So in our situation, we find that you are just being taken there without security consciousness. And we are taken there without the local community accepting that this is a national institution, a national policy that teachers must be posted everywhere in this country. But you realize that the people of that region do not address that issue at all. The teachers are not well prepared to go and teach there. When you look at the number of teachers who are running away from that region and even their demographic in terms of ages. You realize that those are teachers who are between the age of 26 and 34. They are not teachers of my age of 50 and that.
Would it be better if they were, according to you?
No, I'm just talking about why do we have such kind of demographics? Because people who have gone there cannot sustain staying there longer because of fear and because of traumatic experiences they have undergone in the past and so on. But everybody is a target, including the police station. The police in the northern Kenya are not properly facilitated to deal with the situation. Have you that point? Well, like what happened in this place near Bora is about 230 kilometers from the border. So you cannot say that these attackers were coming there when they were not known. These are people who must be living within the community. What is the local community doing to secure the institutions to guarantee the safety of those who are transacting? It is not only teachers.
Second time you're mentioning the local community, and let's actually get into that. Are you saying that the local community is not supporting the teachers from, shall we call them Bara, or from
they are not supporting.
Upcountry?
They are not supporting.
So the local community is working against
the kind of experience that the teachers have told us, that even this attack, they were warned a week earlier. And the people who are killed are those people who are found sleeping in their houses.
So they had not received the warning.
They had received the warning, but they ignored. The others who took precaution were sleeping in the wilderness. For how long can a teacher sleep in the wilderness and then to go to school to teach? That during the day you are going to school to teach, then at night you cannot go to your house.
Sleep under a tree.
Under a tree. Because these are people who will target where they know people stay. They are not going to search for teachers in the bush. They are going to their specific residential areas.
And to target, then it means, as you say correctly, they have intel. They know the teachers. They know where they live.
Yes.
And how do you get that information? It has
from
to be
the
locals.
Yes. So they're being singled out.
They're singled out. And in fact, this is an orchestrated scheme which the Kenyan intelligence ought to have known. That what is the philosophy behind refusing to accept government service from our fellow Kenyans, when the taxpayers are used to support education, to support health, to support all other programs, and then you don't want them to work there. I think this is a conversation because the leader of majority in parliament comes from Garissa. The attack took place 30 kilometers from the Garissa town. Does it mean that himself he doesn't visit home? Have you heard him comment about this to date?
No.
Are we honest as Kenyans? Are we having a conversation with people we trust or not? These are the things we do. Like us, we don't want to say that remove teachers, because education is a right, and every Kenya, whether it is in mass, must be given the same education. So these are the things which are not adding up. So with us, we want a secure environment where we can transact our business of teaching. In fact, even standard group, if this place is not secure, you cannot have this program. Why are we experimenting with the life of Kenyans that you go there teach? And you know what the Teacher Service Commission
As a
did?
teachers union, what do you do to address this particular issue? Because you're raising a couple of issues. One, there's insecurity, yes, in general, but at the same time, you're accusing the local community of not accepting and welcoming teachers from other parts of the country.
This time around, we did not address the Teacher Service Commission because we realized the Teacher Service Commission is also a victim of a circumstance like just as us. Because they are an employer, they have done their best, they have posted the teachers there. So we addressed this issue with the Ministry of Interior. And we see that this must be a multi-agency approach to address the issue. One, even foreigners coming to Kenya are being given induction on how to behave when they come to the coast.
To live here.
To live here and so on. If you are going to be a teacher in northern Kenya, we are proposing a special paramilitary training, a level of preparedness that as you go there, this is the nature of the people you are going to interact with. But besides that, why don't you arm me at night? Because these people also have blood.
You want teachers to carry arms.
Why you have seen Northern Carolina demonstrated last week that they want to have as many guns as they want. Why? In the civilized society, if you know very well that I'm armed, you cannot just come to me to butcher me. you must also prepare that I can also kill you. So if that is the case in Kenya and nobody is taken, then the police cannot give you protection. Why can't you be armed to give protection to yourself?
City, are you hearing what the Secretary General of KUPPET is saying?
Not
Basically,
only-
he's saying that teachers must carry arms, and then we'll go now from that to KMPDU saying doctors must carry arms.
Yes.
Somebody else will come and
Yes.
say, clinical officers serving in that area must carry arms.
Actually, Eric, this isn't a new concept. If you travel, let's not even go to Northeastern Province. If you go to Tana River, where they've also had similar issues, you will find what you call the waziri, the Mijikumi, are armed. They're actually armed.
Recognized as reservists.
Yes, they're armed. They're called reservists, but they're armed. Why? Because the people who attack them are also armed. Okay, they are armed with G3 weapons. Maybe they've improved them now, and the fellows who come with the AKs, but they are armed because it is understood that the sort of problems they have require ammunition. It's the only part of the country going north that has that situation. Other parts of the country don't have that because they don't have that problem.
Suguta Valley and
But
Turkana
I want to
area,
reveal
yes.
to you something which many people in Kenya do not know. Are you aware that many of our national schools are having police stations in there? Yeah, are you aware of that? Why is Northern Kenya not given that kind of treatment?
Status.
We need now every school to at least have 3 policemen. If this school has 3 policemen, the other one has 3, the other one has 3, and there are also 20 schools.
It's going to send a message, right?
That these schools are armed.
They're
protected.
They're protected.
Right.
Yeah, protected. So but in the event that you don't give such, then you arm the personnel working there, because the children in those regions, I'm sure, are aware that our teachers will be killed today where they stay.
Obviously, and
And they don't tell you.
I keep going back to this because obviously this is something that has come up not once, not twice, and it has come up, over time. This particular issue of certain areas being protected, and I still want to know. Then, has anything been done? Who, when these questions or when these issues are being brought forward to the relevant authorities who can actually do something about it, what has the response been? And then has there been further agitation if nothing has happened?
Like us, we have got one major tool which we will use, and I wonder how, as teachers unions, we will go on strike that we want the government to secure Northern Kenya. Kenyans should go on strike, not only teachers, that Northern Kenya should be secure. We must put our parliament to account for the policy they have in terms of security of that northern region. I think it is high time that we stop politicking, but we go specifically to administratively deal with the northern Kenya issue. That is the reason for which, as KUPPET, we have now engaged the Ministry of Interior with very serious proposals that in an event that education must be taken to northern Kenya, then the teachers must be prepared.
Must be prepared,
Yeah.
right?
The police in Kenya or northern Kenya must also be prepared. What the teachers tell us is very interesting. They're telling us that the police is telling them that we cannot come out at night to face these attackers because we don't know how armed they are. It means that even the police,
Are ill-equipped.
are ill-equipped, and they are put there for sentimental value. For the ministry to massage
just for
it,
show.
to massage its ego, to say that but we have got our borders
Security
are
personnel.
protected. Yeah.
But Secretary General, the issue in northern Kenya, or NFD as it was called, is as old as time, right from independence. But in those days, I think the problems one had was some lorries being hijacked, the occasional attack. But with this new radicalization, this is new because people have been posted to the northern part of Kenya from other parts of this country for the longest time. But the current threat that we now face, or what we see, has actually not been there. This is new, where they target actually teachers, and you can see it is determined. You look at what happened in Mpeketoni. You look at what has happened around. It's deliberate, and it cannot possibly happen without the collusion of the locals. Now, my question: why don't you just agitate to have teachers stopped? Just stop the teachers from going there. Just stop until all these things are put in place.
Because when there's a disruption of services, somebody is bound
Just
to take
stop.
notice.
Completely
Disruption,
stop until
somebody is going to take notice and say, okay, hold on, what is actually going on here. But if there's agitation and the teachers keep going, then they keep suffering. So if you remove it completely, don't you see now that will get people to sit up and take notice?
You want
that
the
something
children
is
to
actually
suffer so
happening?
that this issue is addressed?
Yes.
So the
Something
children
has-
are going to
Yes.
suffer.
Yes, something has to give.
Yes.
Somebody has to suffer at some point for them to do what they're supposed
The
to
child
do.
is the most innocent
Unfortunately,
in that
it
equation.
is seen that
Yes.
when two elephants fight, the grass will suffer.
Eric,
but
it
at
is
some point,
true.
something needs to.
Are you
Something
then
has got
saying
to
that
give.
more teachers should be killed so that children can have education?
No, the government
Stop
should
the
address the
process.
issue.
Stop the
but
process.
But
do
they've
not
not
do
arrested the
impact
issue.
the teachers.
The issue has not been arrested, and
Let's
this
take a
is,
short
the issue
break.
is
At
just
12
that.
minutes to 8 o'clock, Akelo Misori will answer this question when we come out of this short break. Good morning. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Akelo, my colleagues are asking you, why don't you down your tools? Move out all your teachers from the area.
Today I'm getting encouragement from a very unholy quarter, because you were trying to incite me to withdraw.
we're trying to get you
But
to
what I'm
consider.
telling you, you people do not have the capacity to incite me. We are properly incited on this matter. But I wanted just to say that before we go to that level, Kenyans must have a conversation of the security, and more specifically the security of Northern Kenya. Because you realize it is not only teachers. Are you aware that the Cuban doctor who was abducted has even
He's still out there.
recovered?
He's still in captivity.
So, this is not a situation of teachers. And terrorism is an international issue. We as a nation must not just play lip service that we want to secure towns and we don't want to secure the
villages.
Education should be a major driver to inject sanity in that region. And that is what can even bring security. Because an enlightened team of Kenyans on values, on how we can live together is better than even arming them. Are you getting that bit?
Mr.
The idea
one
of
the
having...
unfortunate things that we have is when one talks to us about conversation, we are reminded of politicians. Because the one thing that the political class in this country does is they talk to us, and whenever a question is raised, they respond to it by further talk. The discussion, you say, is important, yes. But for how long are we going to continue having discussions? So people are going to continue dying, we are going to continue having discussions. People are going to continue dying, we're going to continue having discussions. And yet, the path that must be followed is not that difficult to understand.
Perfect. And that is what I am saying, that as a union, it is not our mandate to stop workers' public service to be rendered in Northern Kenya. And that is the reason for which I'm saying there should be a national conversation. We have got legitimate institutions in the land. One of them is being Parliament. I think that is what I started with. We have now given our representatives in Parliament that this is a bill that we want you to do. Can you have an education bill which will address all the issues and how we want to transact the business with others? That is before we go to that extreme of strike. Because as Kenyans, we cannot be treated to having just demonstrations as the only panacea to solution to our problems.
Why not petition the TSC to only send teachers from that region to the region? Because the other thing that you're saying is
let me
that the
just
locals-
say, and I want to say, if we want to do that, are we going to have 2 sets of teachers or 3 sets of teachers where others are going to teach in that region? We have somebody even made a proposal, in fact, even a cabinet secretary, lower the teaching grades. So the people from that region,
So you can hire as many as possible.
as many as possible, and they can teach there. My friend, that is politically very dangerous. Because you may not know the philosophy behind these people rejecting people from other places. What if I say, let me be allowed to make this extreme allegation? If they teach their people, and therefore, and it is an admission that now the terror groups have now taken control of Northern Kenya, then they will radicalize the region, and therefore, in another century, nobody else will go there, and it will be another country.
But you're right, Bwana Misori. Not very long ago, it was reported that among the attackers was a known teacher.
Yep.
Somebody who taught in a primary school, a teacher who everybody knew to be a teacher.
So
that's a dangerous route.
These people cannot be allowed. If Northern Kenya is part of Kenya, then Kenyans must move freely in their own country, and they must transact
everywhere else.
Because people from that region control business in Nairobi. in Migori, in Homa Bay, and in Kisumu, and in Kitale. Why is it that they don't want other people to go and even take milk
Work.
and
To
work
work
there?
there.
I think it is. That's why I'm saying
Big
a national-
conversation to be
a
had.
big conversation needs to ensue.
Let's end the conversation here with a question regarding the two unions, Kenya National Union of Teachers and yours, KUPPET.
Yes.
So there has been conversation in public domain that one seems to be getting favors from the TSC to the detriment of the other. And that is, you are getting more advantaged by the TSC to try and kill NAT. So more and more teachers are coming your way. NAT is being sidelined. NAT is being killed. What is happening?
Not is diminishing, as it were.
Why are you sleeping alone in this bed without
Nah.
your colleagues?
I think that is the height of deceit. And,
Propaganda.
propaganda. Which is part of what we have in the union mandate is to constantly carry out propaganda as we propagate your issues. And this is also because unions are partly quasi-political. And I hope you are also joined the team who say that we have admitted we are used to do this. I even came up with a book, Teachers Unions and Labor Relations.
Yep.
I purposefully came to show you this book. This book does not take the confession that is alluded to us as killing or trying to get favors. KUPPET mandate is post-primary institutions. Whatever is being alluded to that we are part of the scheme to kill the other is merely people who don't want to address the salient issues which affect their institutions.
Their own institutions. These words, do they ring a bell? The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers was formed with the tacit approval of the government to counter the then radical and powerful NAT.
I want to give you that the reason for which
Those words are contained in your book, the book that you've written.
Yes.
This is what you've said.
It was not done that. It was not done like that. And that's a misconception. This book is trying to explain the reason for which we are formed. By the way, we were formed because we were marginalized in NAT. In NAT. Terrible.
Secondary school teachers.
We were marginalized. Both even, can you imagine after 1990, the secondary school teachers were being employed in job group H. Their counterpart from other trades were being employed in job group K. When the students at Kenyatta University in 1985 agitated to be employed at K, the then General Secretary of KNUT said, why do they want to ask for a job group before they are employed? Is that fine? So that is what made KUPPET to be there. But another thing, for unions to be formed in the current constitution, all workers have the right to form, join, and participate in the activities of a trade union. And it is not only here, even UK where we borrowed. In fact, even KNUT borrowed. They only added K. There is the National Union of Teachers UK. Are you that point? There are other unions, 3 others. We have a country with very few teachers, only 132 teachers like Sweden. They have 4 teachers unions. So it is not unique. Even in South Africa, even in Botswana, even in Zambia, or even in Zimbabwe. We have all this as part of this. In fact, our coming in on board really made Kenya Union of Teachers to wake up because it was a sleeping giant.
Oh, so it's because of you that now NAT is vibrant.
It is very vibrant. They came to be very vibrant because we are backing and then the giant.
So the kind of support that you're getting from TSC is meant to also.
There is no
vibrant,
support we are getting from TSC. I think this is another misconception.
Or no support whatsoever.
What is support? What kind of support do we get from TSC?
A number of things that we've seen. For example, some teachers being deregistered from being members of
let
KNUT.
me tell you,
money not being remitted by TSC to KNUT.
Let me tell
allegations
you,
that money is coming to your union.
Those are different sets of political arrangements and formations. KUPPET is for post-primary. We cannot recruit members from primary. So nobody from primary can be enlisted as a member of KUPPET. By registration from our own, it is very exclusive. It is post-primary. Majority, the teachers in primary schools are more than 210,000. At that point. So are they members of KUPPET, even as we speak? So these are things which the media consumes, and they also point part of it, and they just escalate it because they have got a forum. I cannot defend myself, but I don't. We don't care in this, because we know very well that there is no favor. Members subscribe to the union through membership, as I was asking
CT to join.
So that you benefit. So they fill their forms. Another point. So if then we protect, we ring fence that kind of arrangement. Is that protection? If by 10 of every month, all those members who subscribe to the union are supposed to bring the teachers are supposed to remit by law. So is that a protection? I don't know what has happened between our colleagues and the Teacher Service Commission. That one they can come here and explain. But within that arrangement, the interface does not involve KUPPET.
So no bad blood between KUPPET and NAT.
Let me tell you, no bad blood.
Okay.
You know, for the longest time, NAT was always seen as a union that represented the primary school teachers.
Yeah.
For the longest time.
Because they were the most vocal,
No,
most visible.
there was not a union.
That's the point.
That is the confession.
Thank you very much, Akelo Misori, for joining us this morning. Asante sana.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best. And yes, that conversation about the teacher security in the northeastern parts of the country is important to continue having. The argument and the debate on whether teachers should be armed is also an important conversation. Whether, this holds water, whether it goes far, let's wait and see. Or whether you actually have another, agenda that you're pushing here. It's coming up to 8 o'clock. Good morning. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues on our digital platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also you can comment on YouTube because we are live streaming on all those platforms, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. Have a good day, Akelo.
Thank you so much.
All right, good night. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads, and then we switch gears a little bit and have more conversations from around the world. Good morning.